do this probably in two ways. I've got the script, but it would probably be more dynamic if I give it to you, not impromptu, but extemporaneously, but then I may get bogged down and forget things that are important. So from time to time, I'll be reading, and from time to time, I will be talking to you off the cuff. So Marlo, give me my off the cuff notes, and I'll get started. Ellinwood has always liked its celebration. Think back to the Heim-Wolf wedding of 1895. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not sure if this is a group of people in the Opera House, the Mangeldorf Opera House, not the Knights of Columbus Opera House down there that was built in 1911. The Mangeldorf Opera House was upstairs of the Mangeldorf building that burned in 1908. And these are people in the mid-90s, from the clothes and the hairstyles of the women especially, and the men too. It looks to me like mid-90s. Think of the Wolfheim wedding with carload and carload, trainload of elite from Kansas City coming down here for this wedding. There were, according to some sources, 2,000 additional people in town. They were not all invited guests. Think of Wolf Grove, the area that's now Wolf Grove Park, strewn with Japanese lanterns and tables, two tables 100-foot long each, and people served in shifts, and they served from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Hundreds of people. There was a free dance with wine and champagne and beer, and then selected guests went to the Mangeldorf Opera House for a concert after that. Just an incredible event. So like I say, Ellinwood has always loved its celebrations. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay. There were old settlers reunions around the turn of the last century. There were rodeo extravaganzas in the late 30s. The Historical Society has films of those in colors that are really good. I was planning to show some of those, and then we got a lot of footage in from Norma Lee of the 1953 celebration that I want to concentrate on, and from Craig Robinson, G.I. Robinson's son. G.I. was probably the mastermind of the 53 celebration. So anyway, we've always loved celebrations. We had, I don't know much about it, but if it was anything like Halstead's, and remember at the time of the 1953 Diamond Jubilee, was a 5-year-old boy living on the R&S Ranch outside of Halstead. So if I mispronounce anybody's name, correct me, right? Don't be bashful, all right? Anyway, the state centennial. How many people remember in 1961? Did Ellinwood have a big celebration that year? Okay. Then 1972, the town centennial. Now, why do we have a Diamond Jubilee in 53 from 75 years from 1878, and then a town centennial in 1972, 100 years from 1872. The town was founded in 1872, but it was officially incorporated in 1878. So that's why the Diamond Jubilee commemorated the 75 years from 1878. All right, you can visit Jenny's website, Jenny Cramp Anderson, at the Historical Society website, and see a whole series of pictures from the rip-roaring 1972 celebration, right? Okay. So, even though there are all these celebrations that are fascinating stories in themselves, I have chosen to deal with 1953. How many people were in Ellinwood during that time? 1953, 65 years ago. Look at the hands, okay? Quite a few people here. All right, so.
I got out of the Navy 2 days before that.
Really? Wow. Good for you. 1953. The Korean War was still raging. It had started in 1950. The Tribune, the front page that has some Ellinwood information about the Jubilee, has this headline: American Aces down 11 red jets. The armistice ending the Korean War would not be signed until July, a couple of months after the celebration. President Eisenhower had only been in office for about 4 months. He was, of course, elected in the election of 52 and then installed in office in January of 53. Kansas prohibition had ended just 4 years before, after the repeal election of 1948. The first legal liquor stores appeared in 1949. The sale of alcohol had been illegal in Kansas since 1881. Now, of course, national prohibition was 1920 to 1933, but Kansas retained prohibition until after the election of 48. And in 1949, you had the liquor stores. This one looks kind of like the one that Dan and Adriana Deroff ran. It's not that one, but it is one of those diners that was converted into a liquor store. And finally, there was a new product on the market. Wait a second, Tara. What new product were people in this area getting in 1953 for the first time? TVs, yes. Channel 12 in Hutchinson had announced that it was going to start broadcasting in July. There was no TV available in Ellinwood yet, but people were buying TVs in anticipation that by July they could see it, even though it was mainly test patterns and snow, right? Mr. Redmond, who ran the Redmond appliance store, was that located where Andy's was? Okay, he had TVs for sale before you could get any reception. And then when Channel 12 started broadcasting, people told me that he had a TV set in the window night and day. It was on. The reception, Robert Yarber said, was terrible, but people would go in their cars and park in front and watch by the hour. All right, so let's see. I need to, anyway, people in Ellinwood in the spring of 1933 were ready for a celebration. I've divided my talk into 3 parts. I'm going to deal with the lead up to the celebration first, and then the event itself, and then the aftermath. And I believe now that there is something that I need to read. So let me repeat. And Ellinwood, in the spring of 1953, felt like a celebration, so people rummaged through their attics to find relics of the town's early days, and seamstresses sat down at their sewing machines to sew up facsimiles of late 19th century outfits. Men sprouted facial hair, and here is the result: a rollicking good time that was pulled off in spite of worrisome weather, an almost comical armed robbery, and a shotgun homicide that occurred the first night of the celebration in town. How many people knew that? One, several. Okay. Here is a film clip of people enjoying the main event on Main Street, Saturday, May 16th. Now, I hope everything works. We're ready to go. You have your Whom Did I See papers on your tables. If you see anybody you recognize, write their name down. Now, you don't have to, think this is taking notes or anything for school, but if you just happen to recognize somebody, write their name down. If those of you in the back want to move up to this area, a few of you could if you can't see. Okay, hope, 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 here we go. We need to have the Gunsmoke theme on, even though Gunsmoke did not start until 1955. This music was used when it was on the radio, I believe. I can remember listening to it on the radio before television. So, let's see. We need to, help me out, girls. We need to turn on the power and function. Turn on the power, function. Okay. And then we need to skip up. Okay, we're playing it loud so it drowns out any other sound. All right, here we go. That's a Till woman, right? And is it a pet? Huff. These are the winners of the costume contest. Look at this truck. It will figure prominently on parade day. Is that Mr. Redmond? Who's that? Anybody know?